This is Dan Max, CDXP Realty, aka the Trading Agent, and this is a live market chat for Thursday, December 22nd, 2022. Let's get into it. I know a lot of people who are struggling. Things are not going their way, potentially. Things are going their way for some people. I mean, it's just, again, the market is what the market is. Want to give people opportunity to talk about it, see how we can help out. Again, talk about level stops, what you need to do, where you're at potentially. Again, I think one of the things that can be very difficult about the markets, and I say this all the time, especially during holiday weeks, light volume action exacerbated by news, lack of news, push of rumors. I mean, hearing all sorts of things about Tesla capitulating, blowing out, which at this point you really can't argue with what it's doing at the moment. But we've talked about some ideas, some thoughts, maybe that might play out. But again, overall, at the levels that we're at going into the holidays, yesterday's bounce. Now, again, everyone's saying Christmas is canceled. I get it. Typically, that's what the market makers would typically want people to believe. I'm interested to see how this plays out because there was some gap talk earlier in the week. Didn't think it was possible. Is it there? Maybe. Maybe. Again, think about it. The market does what it's going to do based on perception sometimes, and it's easy to get people to react emotionally and chase, essentially, right? Like when the market's rising. Now, we talked about Tesla, right? You know, everyone knows Tesla. We've talked about that one forever. One of the things that we always talked about with Tesla is like, how'd you know it was topping, right? It's always the straight line move, man. It's always the straight line move at the end, at the top. Oh, let me pull that one up real quick. Let me roll through that because I think this is where it gets interesting. We talked about this in November last year, how this was essentially the end, right? This straight line move. Well, now you're getting in this point where it feels very capitulatory. Oh, Jesus. Let me move that back. Again, I apologize. That might not be the right spot, but we'll see when we get there. Now you're getting the straight line move, right? You go from 320, whatever, 315 down to 123. How much more down is there? I mean, that gets interesting because I start pulling up the hourly. Let me show y'all. And what are we noticing, right? The volume is growing at the lows, and I'm starting to see wicks. So just be thoughtful, all right? Again, the one trade that I talked about, if you wanted to take Tesla, and again, ask questions. Feel free to jump in. I'm just talking. I think the best trade might be to sell calls on the Tesla Q. The premiums are insanely jacked. Meaning, like, it's a decaying fund. If Tesla is closer to the bottom than the top, selling out of the money those Tesla Qs calls could be pretty lucrative. It could be a just total sweep of that premium. So if you want to buy puts, say you want to sell the calls on the Tesla Q to buy, I mean, you could trade it in many different ways. To buy Tesla calls, I don't know if I would play that because, again, I hate picking the bottoms with dumpers like that. But if you're comfortable with what you're doing, I mean, again, the first bottom buying calls is always the hardest because think about it, IV is jacked. Trying to pick the bottom exactly, it's going to be hard. No, I've not talked about the SPY NEO. I was just kind of talking about Tesla because I think Tesla is what's driving the market lower today, obviously. You're getting some action where things are getting wiped out, slapped around, end of year tax loss selling, probably doubling in. So that's why I want to watch Tesla because this action, as you can see on the weekly, right? Like this, even the last time we had the spike in the volume, it had a bounce shortly after. Now, how low can Tesla go? Again, if you've been following the channel for any period of time, I've warned people. I know, but the trolls will just say I'm always wrong, which that's fine, whatever, I don't care. But we warned people, get out of the stock many times. Talked about shorting it up here. At this point, how low can it go again? Because everyone's trying to yell about market cap and all this stuff. And this is where you got to have to be very careful is that at the highs and the lows, all of the data, information, like the lawsuit that comes out today against them, really gets yelled the loudest. And so if you're thinking, like Scott here, screaming $50 stock, well, it might be one day. I mean, no one's going to argue that. But when you go from $1.17 down to $1.24, it's not going to get there in a straight line. Because remember, the market is a liquidity-driven mechanism. Liquidity. If you've been short this stock and you're the market maker, right? Look at the liquidity down here. You know, they unloaded into, I hate to say these types of people, not very smart. They're probably covering here. Now, does that mean it has to rocket right from 123, 124? I don't know. But if you're short this stock and you haven't taken profits, you are dangerously gambling on the fact that you think it can only go lower, which, again, not saying it can't in time. But near term, if I'm the market makers, I am absolutely using this liquidity to cover my shorts. It makes sense. Holiday, tax law selling, people puking. Think about the stock owned by retail heavily. Everybody believes in Tesla, potentially, right? Everyone wants to believe. I guess maybe that's the better way to describe it. So keep an eye on that. Let's get into ES, because I was watching this on the daily, coming into this range. We'll see if it holds. We'll see. What are your thoughts on a bounce higher for level for Tesla? Okay. That's probably a good point too. Let's just pull this all out. Let's just, for current beliefs, not current beliefs, but current future structure of this move. Remember how we'd like to draw the fibs, and if they line up with certain areas, could be a completion of the move. Maybe it's not there yet. Remember, sometimes we like to stretch this and see what happens. I personally thought we were making the bottom, but again, not taking any like trades on. Oh, that's interesting. So 95 would be obviously like the place where the fibs line up. That's interesting with all of the support resistance. Personally, again, I think the easiest trade if you're going to sell out of the money, calls on Tesla Q, because that's a deteriorating ETF. If the market takes the dump, yeah, can Tesla get down to 95? You bet your ass. Right? If I was going to take a wild guess on this, well, so here's the thing about the afternoon, right, is you got the omnibus talks, right? Like, and I said this earlier, and this is why I still believe, actually, the market will potentially rally. Now, again, have stops, have your own plan, be thoughtful if you're wrong. Like, know your max pain points. But this isn't the first time that the market has dropped down, chopped around, whatever you want to call it, post-OPEX, where Congress is supposedly arguing over a budget. To me, it's not really like they argue anymore. It's just like, how much stock are they buying down here? Or what are they trying to accomplish, right? McConnell's going to try to they're going to try to convince, again, some Republicans, again, I hate really talking about the politics here, but it doesn't really seem like McConnell has any reason to not pass this bill. He's been like pushing it himself. So what's he doing? I have no clue. He doesn't seem to be sitting there going, well, there's a lot of pork crap spending, right? He's not really talking about that. He just keeps going on and say, oh, we'll figure it out. So I don't really trust that he's going to impede this. And so it's kind of like, we've talked about this with SMH, right? Like, you get these circuit break moments where it puts Congress in a position to act, potentially. Yeah, I'm watching that SPY news all over the days. I see that. I'm watching, but it's interesting. If you watch Tesla 10-minute, it's just tightening up, right? We talk about liquidity. So know your plan, know your stops. Watch, here you go. Here's Apple. Like, because again, we can talk about SPY, but let's look. This is where I want to break down into the components of what's going on. Apple back near the lows, that's not going to help, right? If the market's going to break. Talk about Microsoft being a big part of the market. Back down at levels. I mean, you're getting into levels everywhere where it makes sense, where if you're going to create a trap, because again, I mean, I look at the sentiment. Confirm, tell me if I'm wrong. I mean, like, everybody and their mom, I'm literally getting trolled by people who think I hate them and made fun of them for just being like, hey, be careful taking profits. Because again, to act like we weren't right about yesterday's pop, and we talked about watching, the 50-day. If you took some profits, because I had some positions I was down on, right? We said the 50-day, you took the money. You took, or not all of it, but some of it. Obviously, didn't take all of it, but that's the trading here. And so if you're adding back down here, I mean, whoever called 374, congrats. I mean, you might get that. But let's see what happens here. HYG, I'm just trying to like scroll through things. So Senate moves to pass spending package after immigration dispute initially delayed votes. Okay, I figure those headlines are coming. HYG, yeah, not making new lows. Like, that's a little bit of a divergence. Now, again, TLT, you would think if the market was about to crash, the TLT would be, like, rallying really hard. Seems stuck. Same thing with the dollar. Now, again, remember, light volume weeks. This is the kind of crap. Popping up to the 20-day. I mean, on a day like today, you would think the dollar would be up at least 1, 2, 3%, right? Yeah, I was just looking at that XBI, down $1 and change. Doesn't look that bad. In between. Let's look at the XLF real quick. Again, let's like pop through these. Back at the range lows. You can't even see the freaking wick there. We're not at the lows yet, so that's interesting. Again, gold, tricky. I've seen gold go up and go down with the market. So, again, here you go. Gold chopping. We'll see. Don't really have any bets on that one, but personally think, again, it doesn't look terrible if it holds up. SMH doesn't look great, right? Breaking down, again, laggards lag into this next support zone. Again, I don't draw these candles. I draw this after the fact. Try to keep it and see what I remember. Like, this area was important. It was important here. Chopped around here was the bottom here. We'll see what happens coming into the 199 level. SPY, man, wow. Interesting. QQQ, as we talked about, lagged consistently. Been always one of those who like lay off. I mean, imagine Roblox. Yeah, doesn't look that terrible, actually, in my opinion. Here you go. Breaking down below. Speaking of Roblox. I feel like it's going to be hard for this to find much pressure down if the market is going to be finding some support at some point. Yeah, I was noticing that with Netflix. Like, I was really hoping this thing would be at like 280 if I had any interest in buying it. Again, this is where, and this is the thing about the market. I mean, that's why the people who attack others and troll and act really... Again, we joke on the Discord room, and if you take anything personal because of hard love, it is what it is. But to like cheer for people to lose or like get excited about people being wrong, like that's like ego above the market, right? Like, or ego above, what's the best way to describe it? It's just bad energy. I don't know how to explain that. Like, if you're happy for other people losing, like, I want everybody to win. I want everyone to have discipline. I want everyone to be the best they can at this trading. Because ultimately, again, nobody is immune from getting caught in traps wrong. No one's going to be immune from making mistakes. Like, that just is what it is. AA coming right back down to where we got in. Watching that. I think did my alarm go off? It's getting close. CF, again, I hate this action today, but look at the volume. It's totally like, I don't know if it's going to wick right back or have like this weird anomaly close and then come back. You found buyers intraday, which was interesting on some CF or on CF, but then it just, again, market does all. Market does what it does. Here you go, oil. Don't you think oil would be getting absolutely spanked? We'll see. It's holding up. Now you got outside high and an outside low, still above the 20-day. UNG, I've warned people, gas, not gas. This one is just hard. Remember, nat gas versus UNG. UNG deteriorates. You got to be careful with that. People are talking about buying it. Okay, I get it. Like watching Cliff. I don't know what Cliff had going on today, but they're up. But that looks like a hammer. We'll see what happens. Does the market close at the lows into the PCE tomorrow? Because we all know it's going to come in lower than expected, right? Like, that's the big question. Like, what is that going to look like, right? So if you got to stop out and you do, great. I mean, again, you just got to know what your pain points are, what you're going to do. ExxonMobil, that doesn't really look that great, but keep in mind where it is compared to the market. You got to compare the two. It doesn't look bad. What are your thoughts on commodities, oil, gas, uranium? Again, every sector is independent of what it's, the market, and you have to have, your own thoughts about, well, what's nat gas going to do? I mean, we showed this a million times that it has a cycle of, if Sonny's listening, December, January just being kind of stuck, right? Hence why looking at other things. Oil potentially could do the same thing. Uranium, I mean, I don't have any desire to trade uranium stocks. I mean, I hate CCJ until they get through their deal with Westinghouse. I mean, this could be dead money. I mean, I have no clue what skeletons are in the closet on CCJ's take of Westinghouse. Westinghouse has had tons of lawsuits. So just keep in mind, I mean, watch Apple. And this is what's so hard here. Okay, Apple, is it making a higher low? I mean, the market made a new low, right? SPY, right? Is it making a new low? No, not yet. Not yet. Again, we don't know. Look at Tesla here. If you're watching the hourly, we'll go back, or shit, even the 10 minutes. Right? Look at this. I mean, that's an hour ago. An hour ago. Tesla is building. Now, could it build to go lower? Like, let's not get it twisted. But that doesn't look bearish to me. Hence, when we talked about like 30 minutes ago, posting the Discord, when posted here, like you could probably sell the calls on the Tesla Q. I would not buy probably calls on Tesla stock yet, because again, the first bottom is hard. The premium deterioration. It's a bigger crapshoot. Okay. What's going on with the SPY 10-minute? If you have any questions, please ask. Again, you see again. I don't. Again, I don't know if it feels very. What would be the best way to describe it? Let me look at them real quick with uranium names. They popped. That's cool. That's an interesting formation down there, so I'll give that one some credit. That looks way better than CCJ, but I mean, this looks like CF, but just on a different level. Like, not making the new high. I mean, I guess it kind of does. We'll see. You have to remember that I can't watch every one of these stocks. I like UEC way better. You would think we get some sort of reversal today. I mean, that's the thing. The traps. This is why being a contrarian and being thoughtful of it ultimately is the correct trades 9 times out of 10, right? But you have to be aware. Sometimes, like even during, and this is what I learned during COVID, is like the market would rally much higher than you thought to make sure people never would sell, right? So sometimes you get the exacerbated intraday moves of dropping off the open to get people to buy more and more puts and to feel more comfortable, right? So you got to be thoughtful. Scott, what do you mean seasonality? What are you referring to? Which personal thing? I want to take the trade of ETF uranium. Again, we'll see. I mean, I don't think if oil and gas hold, uranium should hold. But the only thing that you have to be aware of, and it's very lightning rod with uranium, because for some reason, Europe doesn't think it's green energy. Right? Like, that's just stupid. So, it's a tough... What's the best way to describe it? There's a lot of unknowns, right? Yeah, Santa Claus coming to town, I mean, typically does. I mean, I said this at the beginning of the video. There's been multiple years, if you do this long enough, where, again, every year the budget gets pushed to the last minute. They kick the can down the road. It creates volatility, and then the market rallies after that. That happens, feels like every year. Because both sides hate each other, right? Like, it's not like they're friends anymore, sitting around sipping scotch at local watering holes. Like, they're all, like, plotting against each other, literally. Like, how do we destroy these guys? Which is crazy, because we're all Americans in the end. So, we'll see. I mean, that's been the seasonal reoccurring pattern that happens. You just don't know how the headlines play out. Yeah, I mean, here, I'll talk about Nat Gas if you like, since we're getting comments about it. Here comes Santa Claus, here comes Santa Claus. See all this crap, chop, right? Here you go last year. Now the low ended up being in February. And you had a low in January during OPEX, and then a low January 3rd. At this point with Nat Gas, again, because think about it, the more the commodities drop, like you have to be, I'm sorry, I got a text. You have to be thoughtful of the PCE, the CPI, all that crap is going to be used against it. Because I don't know about you guys, and I say this over and over, like you have to be thoughtful of like what the headline's going to be, right? Oh, well, here you go. This is what's crazy. Like, again, I'm getting text all day about Tesla crapping out, being dead. from retail. I can't show you guys, but I wish you could see. Like, this is the third text today from someone who just knows I watch stock, and I've always said I thought Tesla's going a lot lower, right? Yeah, what's Paul Pelosi trading? Now they're texting me like, ha ha, you were right. Well, again, if I was the market maker of Tesla, I would be absolutely covering my shares right now. Because now it seems 1,000% obvious it's going lower. But it's already gone lower. Does this make sense? Do you guys understand this? Like, this is the psychology of the market. Like, I don't get text when Tesla's at mid-range, not at the highs, not at the lows. I get constant text when things are at lows or at highs and extremes, because it's no different than if Solomon's listening. I mean, whatever. I mean, you can troll all you want, but I actually always wanted to help this guy. But he gets the most excited, what? At the highs and at the lows, just like everybody else. It's very naturally, instinctively to happen. That's what causes the capitulation, right? Like, that's where now the market has given you, as we always talk about, the noose. Here is the rope. Here is they can't take it from you. Here is your opportunity to not take your profits, and then they put you in a position where the market goes against you. And that happens. And if it hasn't happened to you before, I wish you luck, and hopefully you don't have to learn that, because that is how many times you've had a winner and it just goes, looks great. You feel about as good as you're ever going to feel, and then that ends up being the top. Yeah, the market maker, again, think about how the algorithms are probably programmed. It's wired around emotions, right? And so that's where, like today, where people are trolling hard, and again, to me, it's sad for someone. Again, if you're in the Discord room and you want to talk junk and you're messing around, fine, I don't care. But to like come out on social media and like take time out of your life and your trading just to like talk junk, it says a lot about you, not the person you're talking junk about. Because again, I don't do that. Like, again, I talk junk in the Discord room, but again, it's usually because of tough love. I want people to win. My intention is not to like, hey, I'm trying to screw you over, you should do this. Right? Like, this is, think of it as like a parent. Are parents always right? No. Your friend's always right, but they're trying to give you good advice. So, sorry, just looking at some things, getting texts, man. Got some deals trying to get done over the holidays in real estate. Keep an eye on this stuff. I mean, again, I don't know what to tell you ultimately, but Tesla's action as we're speaking, look at the 10-minute. I mean, it's not like someone's going to be like, oh, you're going to call the bottom here and you're going to take credit for it. What? I mean, I always have like devil's advocates always hit me up. It's like, no, I just telling you the repeating action. This doesn't, again, is this the actual bottom? Like, is this just oversold bounce near term? I've said this. Either way, look at the liquidity. You have to be liquidity thoughtful. And you're like, what is liquidity thoughtful, right? Like, no, you got to be thoughtful of that, right? Show you on the hourly again. If you can't see this, now remember, a lot of people ask about like VPA, like, is it always obvious? I'm like, 9 times out of 10, most of the volume action, you're not really going to get a lot of signals. It's not obvious. But when you get huge volume after just a massive smash, that's VPA right there. Remember, market is liquidity driven. I mean, if you're playing the shares, I mean, you got to know your risk tolerance. I mean, the best way to do it, in my opinion, would be to like layer in. And if it just rips higher, then you can't go broke taking with winners. And if it comes back down, you've now got references, right? That's how I look at it. I mean, but here's the thing personally. Like, I'd rather just short the Tesla Q by selling calls than buying Tesla stock. Because now you got the freaking deterioration with the Tesla Q. And if you sold the calls, say they're out of the money, sell you, like, look at the 90s and 85s this month, next month. Or January, sorry. I mean, that looks interesting. How do you feel about TSSL? Which one is that? Again, I just don't really like deteriorating ETFs that much, but if you're going to trade it, Tesla Directional Daily Bull ETF, I figured this is what this was. I mean, let's go look at the chart. It's interesting. It comes out of the highs, gets smoked. I just don't know if does it actually rise when the stock rises? That's the question. Yeah, I know it's the 1.5 move, but does it actually like rise when Tesla rises? Or is it one of those ETFs that's just really garbage? Okay. Well, maybe keep in mind, daily action means during the day. It's like the UVXY, right? Like it's a daily product. When you try to swing trade the UVXY, it just sucks unless you get a monster rise in the VIX. So I'm like trying to ask the question is like, will Tesla, if Tesla moves 10%, will this ETF actually move 10%? Right? Which I guess isn't a lot, 60 cents, 65 cents. So that's, that's kind of the action you have to play. That's why I'm always careful about the daily. Again, anytime you see daily direction means it typically deteriorates. Hope that helps. Daily direction. No, those funds are meant for like quick in, out. And if you do hold them, you need big, strong, bull, bear moves to get big moves. A lot of people don't understand that. Shannon, can you tell me the top of the wave before the smash is a mirror image of now? I can't tell. Okay. Are you talking about like the SPY? Shannon, what are you referring to? What specifically? Which one? Come on, CF, hold this. I know you're a wily bastard. Yeah, and if you have any calls that you're holding, please don't have weeklies for the love of God. Have at the money, in the money. Have to mid-January. I mean, if there is going to be a rally on some sort of effect, give yourself time. I always hate that people are like trying to be right now and buy cheap. Buy less options. Be right. Give yourself outs. It's like trying to get, yes, SPY. Okay, cool. Mirror image. Yeah, let's take a look. Are you talking about like just in general how you had a little like cut back, then roll over? Well, so here's the thing, right? And this is a good question. Like, what if the PCE comes in lower tomorrow? And say the market closes at whatever 375. Could tomorrow look like, this but green? I don't know. Let me pull this across because we got to be getting close. Yeah, I was thinking we're in there. We're in there. I guess you probably could even pull it lower. Again, if you were short and you ignored me, again, like that is you taking it upon yourself. And if you know why it worked and you can admit, because that's the thing, like I can admit when I'm wrong. Like you got to be able to admit when you're wrong. Like, because this is a game where you're not always going to be right. Like you got to, I say that all the time. It just seems so obvious. So yes, because YouTube needs doji tomorrow. I don't know if you'll get the doji. Like, let's look at the hourly, because I'm just curious to see how it's looking. Maybe even the 120. You would need a bigger. Pull another one in here. Remember, I got all these screens here. 3 red candles. Capitulation, right? Three green candles top. I mean, man, that's crazy to think of the morning we're at 387. But what's the VIX at again today? The VIX is in the 24s. 11.9 type trap. I'll check. Check. All you do is check. 11.9. Oh. Duh. Oh, man. I mean, the reason why I'm laughing is because I think you could be, that makes sense. That makes sense, potentially. Because if I was the market makers, you get this little up. You get everybody to pound in hard. You get Tesla to get cream pied. Can I say that? I don't know. This is the thing. Like, the GDP came out at 3.2%. Now, I know, again, we don't talk about fundamentals, but we need to talk about how they craft the headlines. Everyone's screaming recession. Well, government's going to be screaming, look how great we're doing, 3.2%. So here's where it gets a little tricky near term. That's why I keep telling people, like, I think we're going to be in a choppy, sloppy market until January. I could be wrong, and did it take out the lows and get smashed? Absolutely. But based on seasonality, again, it was like Santa Claus. Like, they love, like, talking junk, because if you're short, I mean, that's what I'd be joking too. I'd be like, yeah, Santa Claus bringing coal, mister. That's what it just seems like, because as of right now, if you're looking at the Fed Fund futures, they're now only showing a quarter rate hike. I don't think you want a rate cut, because that will show, like, then that means the Feds are, like, really scared of something. If they're not, I mean, tell me, yeah, again, a lot of people get lucky before the news ends. Like, I'd love to see people's comments. I've gone by Costco 3 times to try to get gas this week, and the lines were out I mean, again, it was like a 45-minute wait to get gas. Middle of the day. After dinner. I'm like, and again, Costco's not the economy. But it's like, whoa. If everybody is slowing down and everyone's scared and this is like end of the world, like every time I go by the stores and the malls, they're freaking jammed. And everyone's like, well, it's just the holidays. Yeah, I get it. It is the holidays. But it doesn't look like the end of the world where the market's trying to project. Because end of the world, nobody's shopping. Like, I remember 2008, 2009. Or, sorry, the 2008 Christmas. That was scary. Scary. There was nobody at the malls. Nobody was spending money. Nobody was hanging out. Like, everybody was like, I think I bought a bad house. Everybody thought in their mind, oh, crap, I got too many problems. Now, I'm not saying that it's not going to get worse. Again, I told people, I think this is either a big consolidation multi-year pattern or the bear market blows out at some point next year. Yeah, even if you do know the news beforehand, the market can do a different direction. Yes, we talk about that all the time. Well said. So, again, the way that I see things, now again, do we have to talk about Europe? I don't know. Are we talking about this vortex? Like, this is where I think it's like kind of funny, is that like this cold weather, right? Is this supposed to be, I mean, what's the best way to describe it? Is that like the news for shopping down? I don't know. I mean, it snowed 8 inches and it's negative 13 here today. Maybe that slows down. Yeah, Frank. And that's the thing. That's where I think ultimately there is a issue with people overspending. I mean, we're looking at credit card utilization. It used to be, it was like in the 20s, 30s. Now it's up in like the 70s. Like, everybody using credit cards. And I think that's where you find that back end problem. Like, that's a good point. I appreciate you bringing that up. That's where I think there ultimately comes a problem with consumer spending. By the way, I like your short on frozen pipes, even though you're taking away my business. Sorry, Frank. I mean, a lot of people were asking me, like, what do I do for the pipes? I'm like, make sure it doesn't face, if the wall faces the outside, open the cabinets. That's another topic for another day. All right, watching oil, seeing oil service make new lows of the day. Tesla, man, it's starting to build slightly again, but we have to keep in mind, like, here's the thing about Tesla at this point. Down 9%, 10% at one point. 10% down days in a name like that are probably more likely the bottom than the top, because think about the reverse of it, right? Remember when Tesla was peaking, up 10% days, right? Now, are the margins calls coming? This is the biggest question I have to ask everybody and be thoughtful. Like, what time is it? 2 o'clock Eastern Standard. Are margin calls coming? I mean, if the market continues lower, yeah. But do the algorithms snap up a headline and try to get this thing to run up? Your guess is good as mine. Your guess is good as mine here. And this is where trading ultimately becomes like tread lightly, be thoughtful. Now, if you have cash, this is where you're more aggressive. If you're down, you're less aggressive. Because think about it. Like, at the highs, when everybody's freaking out, now again, depending on a bear market, bull market, you think like Livermore, or not Livermore, and Buffett, whatever. When everyone's fearful, you should be greedy. When everyone's greedy, you should be fearful. Yeah, I see that. CF. Let's pull that up. So that's where some people go like, well, no, I'm going to wait for confirmation. Well, what if it looks like what Ready to Set Sell said? Like, what if this is a trap into the PCE? We don't know. So, man, even Roblox is bouncing back. Okay. I don't know personally how tomorrow's news is going to play out. Remember, second mouse gets the cheese. My position is like, whatever I'm going to hold into it, I know it could get worse. It also could get better. And I will be comfortable with that. Because I know how PCE, CPI last time, what did they do? They gapped the market up, right? Trapped the market. Could CF be a massive head and shoulders? I mean, I guess it could. I guess it could. I'm just trying to look at it. Let me check out the monthly, the weekly. It looks like it's in this big range consolidation period. But keep in mind, so this is where it gets really tricky. If inflation ingrains, and this is like the 70s, with some sort of like blow off top from the market action, this is where, again, people who like materials, I get it. To me, they have more protection from like what the ultimate downside is. Like, we've warned people for what seems like almost a year now. Like, your favorite tech name ain't coming back to life. It's probably dead. Now you can trade it. But these names, it's hard to think in a future where interest rates find whatever they're stabilizing at. Commodities being in a bull market, since, like, remember, think about all the cash. It's not destroyed. I always have to remind people, like, cash is not destroyed. Whatever's profits that were lost in Tesla, Apple, tech, that cash is still there. Someone was winning. That money gets put to work. It's a zero-sum game. If you're losing, I'm winning, you're losing kind of thing, right? Someone's taking the other side of that bet. That's where I try to keep people thoughtful of, like, yes, your favorite materials names can get played around within this market. But if you look at something like, let's just, as stupid as, like, I keep talking about, like, letter X. Like, I don't know if I really like it now until it plays out, but I don't see X as a name that gets absolutely smashed. Worst case scenario, come back to 16 to 18, buy it. Right? Like, a lot of these commodity companies, like, they're going to have expanding margins with inflation because we got shortages and bottlenecks everywhere. Now, what if it gets figured out and Ukraine war ends? That doesn't seem like it. Literally, Zelensky was here yesterday in the United States taking photos with Biden. And our budget's going to have, what, $1 billion? No, not $1 billion. Like 100, quote me, I'm wrong, like $100 billion or something. Maybe not even, to, like, spending on this kind of crap. Again, which I've said is typically bullish. Hey, if someone's watching the headlines, let me know. I suddenly the market spiked. Up, not down. Again, like, you have to think about the perception of the market. And that's where it's hard to be incredibly bearish right now. Because if you've lived in the markets before and you've been in these situations and you've tried to be bearish, you've just gotten crapped on. And ultimately, you may have been right, but you ultimately had to wait. Because that's the thing about the market, right? It goes up a third of the time, sideways a third of the time, down a third of the time, potentially. Yeah, it's getting pretty wide and loose. I'm watching the SPY 10-minute. Let's go to it real quick. Let me pull it in. Had that long wick spike. So if you can get back over 376, that to me is bullish. Because notice what happened all during the downtrend. You couldn't get over the previous level's highs. Keep an eye on that. Remember, what's coming out this afternoon, right? Potentially omnibus. And that's why I'm like trying to tell people who, even the people who are like super bearish, like you got to be careful. If you don't take your profits, they might get taken from you. So, any questions, thoughts? Again, I don't mind the criticism. And this is where I'm trying to engage people in the right mindset. Like if you are losing money and you're frustrated, well, guess what? How do you think I channel my frustrations? Do I put it into getting mad at the world? No, I try to like put into like, what could I have done differently? What can I do better? What can I be differently? Do I still? Yeah, I'm still holding AA. Yep, I got January stuff on that. I mean, I probably should be trading some stuff here, but I'm just at this point where I'm comfortable with what I got because I am curious to see what happens tomorrow. And if it goes higher, great. If it goes lower, well, then guess what? We'll have to pull the plug on some things and won't be the best December ever. December to remember event. Kind of all those stupid Lexus commercials or whatever they are, Toyota. Because remember, we got AA around 42. Like, that was a gift. Just fell in our pocket. Traded around a few of the positions. Probably should have sold more. I mean, that's like I'm taking my notes like, man, you should have traded it more. But then I look back and go, well, what was your triggers to trade more? What has changed from the last 2 days? Well, GDP came in stronger. So, again, I can understand why some people might say, well, the Fed's got to do more rate hikes. Well, that narrative is being kind of trashed by some of the Fed fund future action. So that's really tough to confirm. Remember, that's the third quarter as well. Just a lot of moving parts. And this is the thing that I've, from trading in these weeks and holidays, is like, I think people don't understand. Like, chop tradiness, like painful, what I would call range-bound markets. Welcome to that lesson. That's why we talk about like trading around positions. If you take a little, you're at the high, you feel confident, take a little off. You see roadblocks, can't get over 28, you take a little bit off. Right? And if it goes higher, well, guess what? You got punked, but punked and winning is better than punked and losing. Hope this all makes sense. Like, this is hard. And that's why 95% of traders will end up in the trash can, essentially, with the grouch. And that's why a lot of traders are the grouch. Like, you can tell by someone's attitude whether they have gratitude and they just are angry. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm assuming Boeing will be getting some money in this budget. I mean, I think they just got awarded another couple $1 billion contract from the Air Force or Navy, one of the two. I mean, let's just pull up some names here. And this is where I've said today, confusion to me. Because I look at FedEx, and I'd be like, man, FedEx, man, what is that down today? Hits a low. Look at that thing. It's not at the lows. That's not showing you some sort of like epic weakness. Now, I know UPS is down 2% today, but let's see what happens here, right? Like, is FedEx, remember, FedEx is down way more than UPS. Keep in mind. We'll see what happens. I mean, you can see there's some support resistance here in the low 170s. That's something I was keeping my eye on because, again, I'd like to watch industrials. Here they are back in the range lows. I mean, could you have saw that coming from there? Me personally, no. And that's where I take note of this. Like, no, I didn't see that coming. I saw worst case scenario, back up and retest. Back up and retest. Somewhere, I don't know, 215, 214. That's all I really, and again, that you don't know anything for certain. And that's where I think a lot of people's position sizing screws them up. Or if they buy options, they don't give themselves time. Like, they give themselves no time. And it's like, you got to be right away. Some of my best trades of what? From being early. But ultimately giving myself time and outs. Because you couldn't have known. Like, what if today is the Tesla bottom? Well, if you bought calls and you bought weeklies, stupid. Hence why I was saying, maybe you sell puts or sorry, calls on the Tesla Q. And if you want to play stock, great. But give yourself time and outs. Like if it doesn't happen immediately, like that has to be in the back of your mind. Always, 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 always. What if I'm wrong? Not what if I'm right. And that's the problem with most traders. And that you can tell people get frustrated. Like they always expect to win. I'm always trying to think in my mind, like, what could the market makers do to screw me over here? Or what could they be setting up here? And that's where, again, at this point, like the positions that I closed out and then I re-added some today, I haven't added anything else. Because I'm like, what if I'm wrong? What if the market gaps down tomorrow? And that's like actual bottom. This is hard, y'all. That's where people who get, and this is the thing, like if you used your emotions yesterday and you're giddy and you didn't take any profits, that's all you can really say to yourself. I'm thankful I did. Remember, I had some SPXL that I was down on, took some of that, took off some of those calls. That was just the nature of the beast. Was it luck? I don't know. And this is where you're going to find sometimes that you do things just because you do them and it's always been the right thing. Somebody said yesterday, like, I'm glad I took off my Tesla calls because they're wrong. I mean, like, you just do that. You know, putting on more risk. Think of it like from the gambler's mindset, right? Like the gambler, when they know like they're unsure, they bet more aggressively. You just can't do that. Because that wrong becomes a big blowout, potentially, if you're wrong. Risk management, how people want to play it. Now, again, that's like, I tried to tell people, like, this is interesting, Tesla. I wish I could tell you what is going to fit for your personality, because it's like you can give people specific plans, but then they just can't execute it. Like, so what is your keys for executing? Like, you have to keep that in mind. All right, look at that. Oh, Tesla. Here you go. SPY, dollar and change off the lows. CF, are you still making low? Brutal. Some of the material names are not acting amazing. Roblox, trying to get back over 26. AA, where are you at? 4206, holding. SPY guy. Well, here, I thought it was a pro gap too, but didn't we talk about, I mean, did you watch the video? Because I said this very clearly. Very clearly. Again, because I feel like an idiot. I wish I would have taken more, right? Said, watch what happened yesterday with the 50-day. Once I saw that back off, I'm like, maybe I'll take some profits. And again, hoping for some like near-term weakness. In my mind, the weakness I was expecting, I didn't know if it would be today. I didn't know if it would be Friday. I didn't know if it would be Monday. I didn't know. But my brain said, all right, we'll take a little off because this is fast, right? 377 up to 387. Take a little off. Still have some positions that I was not, or is a little upside down on. All right, and if it pulls back, I'll buy it. Like, that was my thinking. It wasn't, hey, I took my profits thinking that the market was going to smash today. Because if that was the case, don't you think I would have taken it all? I would have advised people, hey, you probably should take it all. No. Go watch the 1 minute thing I talked about the SPY like yesterday. Like, watch what happens if it can't get over the 50-day. Because between the next 2 days, right, we talked about the data, it could be what? We don't know. Just don't know. Hey, Carol. Yields lower. So it was TLT and tech. Is this one of those times where the market doesn't do what we expect? I don't know what you mean with the market does what we don't expect. Oh, hey, Cat. What do you mean expect? Like, just so I don't misuse your words and maybe interpret them incorrectly. Yeah, Tesla is looking strong-ish, I guess, after that smash. Remember, capitulation. I mean, imagine earlier, like, I got Scott's listen going, Tesla to 95, Tesla to 50, okay? I mean, you're no different than what Solomon likes to do. He gets real excited at the highs and the lows and then doesn't realize, like, the market is literally, like, giving you your own rope. Now, again, maybe Tesla goes to 50 later. No one's going to say, we know that. Near term, like, should be looking for the exit. Usually yields down, tech and TLT rise. Okay. I get what you're saying. Well, here we've talked about, like, watch what happens down here, right? But keep in mind as well is, like, yields could go lower and tech get absolutely throttled. Well, that's what happened in 2008, 2009. If people are rushing to the freaking bond market, that's dangerous. Because that means stocks are going to probably get smoked, right? Like, people are buying bonds, trying to preserve capital and not lose it, right? Whoa, there goes the SPY. All right, you're welcome. I'm glad I did this video because I thought this was going to probably happen into the afternoon, potentially like the omnibus. We talked about it all morning. Yeah, SPY bounce. Just, and again, I mean, if Solomon's listening, I'm talking to you, and I'm not trying to be like degrade you or anybody who's like talking junk. Again, because I don't mind people trolling. I really don't give a crap. Like, you don't determine my decisions. I'm more worried that you're going to lose money because you don't even see that. Your confidence at the extremes is no different than when I would be confident and think I couldn't lose, and it was like right before the trend flipped or the price action would flip on me, right? Like, think about it. You are the most bullish and feel, and again, I'm talking about in generality, like, how do you feel? Like, how awesome is it to feel when you own a stock that has gone bonkers and up higher and you just don't take any profits? Man, you're always going to be learning. That's the honest, like, truth with this, Yagan. Like, and that's why I love to do these chats. That's why I love the Discord. Like, I'm trying to get people like who, I don't know if you guys know who Mr. Beast is. He does YouTube videos. He used to spend 10 hours a day watching videos with his buddies, trying to figure out what did the algorithms, what did people like. Like, that's what he did all day. Now, I'm not asking people to do that, but, like, I'm trying to find people like, that's what you want to be. You want to be a nerd. You want to be a student of the game. Because those are the people you can help, and they're going to help yourself, you, and the people around you. Yeah, look at that. Little bounce. Let me see if there's some news. No. Not seeing anything on briefing. I mean, that's the thing. That's why I was like, I have to be comfortable with a position that I'm holding because I know what the hell is going to happen down here. And this is what's so hard is you don't know the exact levels. It's kind of like Tesla. Like, everyone's like, where's it going to bottom? Well, if you started buying it down here and you knew you were in, like, the sweet spot of confirmation potential, you don't know if you're right until you bet it. Same thing like Livermore said. You don't know until you don't know until you bet. Essentially, that's what he said. That's always how it's going to be, right? So this is where, I literally said earlier in the video, like, if you were going to buy it, you were going to sell Tesla Q calls, and you were going to play the stock, it made sense. Why? Because the liquidity, the price action, everybody going ham, that the market's about to get smoked. I personally don't believe that because I've been in this situation, and my instincts tell me every time this time of year, as much as you want to get bearish, some sort of rally comes. And if it's related to something around the budget, they are going to pass a budget at some point, right? I talked about this earlier too, that Congress is probably just sitting around like, all right, guys, you got your, I mean, what, I don't know if you guys follow some of those, like, channels that all they do is follow Congress's trading. I guarantee you're going to see a bunch of trades go through today. And the the market maker is really good at your emotions, right? Like, think about how you lose at a casino. They do not press you to bet. You put your money on the table and you willingly lose it. And you feel good about it until you lose. It's no different in trading, y'all. I don't get why people don't see that. Like, you have to be willing to put the bet out there for you to lose. And the best times to do it from the market maker's perspective is what? When it seems likely that something's going to continue higher or lower, or people aren't anticipating chop, or there's some news. Like, you have to think about it. Like, it just never ends. This game. It just never ends. Big Ugly, still going. What's fire? What is fire, my friend? What is fire? I'd like to see fire. It's freaking cold as shit here. Minus 13. What's the actual temp? What is the tempy? It is right now -6 here in sunny Denver, Colorado. However, that snow will melt, but probably not with the sun at the angles and the temperatures. Any questions, thoughts, concerns? I mean, I have a feeling the people who talk them again, if you're focused on others talking junk, and I mean, I try to help in the Discord room, and people are like, "Oh, you're mean sometimes," and it's like, man, my coaches, they yelled at me. They tried to get me to see what they need to see. So if you don't trust my intentions or trying to help you, then fine. Then you can get mad and you can lash out. But I guarantee this, and I've said this 1,000 times, if you're in the Discord room, you're trying to give me good information, I don't think I'm ever going to be mad at you if you're wrong. Because I don't believe your intentions are to mislead. I still own my mistakes. I don't want to ever put power in someone else's hands. You don't either. You don't want to blame. I mean, think about all the people blaming Jim Cramer. People blaming institutions and hedge funds. And they rigged the market. And you don't want to ever put that kind of power in anyone else's control. VIX top for the day. I mean, it looks like it. My VIX is delayed. Let me see. VIX is at 23.19. Oh yeah, this is again. I used to have unlimited up-to-date stuff, but then I'm like, you know what? I can certain things I don't mind being a little delayed on, because again, e-signal just hits you over the head every month with more things that you pay for. Sometimes you just don't need it. I can watch the VIX live. I can know the levels. Same thing with like oil. I used to have gold fever. I had all that stuff. It just was like reoccurring. I'm like, I don't need all that. Because you got the GLD, the USO, you got VIX products. All right, are you getting interested in XOP and PXD? I think your alarm was at 129 XOP, and yep, okay. No, my PXD one's at 203. But if the market's going to rally, I think the XOP probably just hit. Nope, close enough. I mean, close enough for government work. I mean, you could be looking for the trap potential here, with knowing the downside is in the 120s, mid 120s. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, this trade in itself, you can look at it and say it's bearish, bullish, bearish. You need more information. You're just back at range lows on light volume. Remember, light volume is easily as hell to manipulate the markets, right? I was talking about this morning. I was watching the SPY, and I can't believe how they got it under 379, 380, and you would get like these capitulation sells on decent volume, and the market would just be like, no volume. And it would float up a little bit, and it was like, boom. They knowingly, somebody's trapped. Somebody's doing something. Now, again, who, we don't know. But remember, killer, we call them the whales eat sharks, right? Like, there's tons of sharks out there that are getting played. So just be aware of that. I mean, I think, again, I don't believe oil has much downside here. Now, this is the thing. If oil and market roll over, yeah, maybe. Nat gas doesn't look as sexy. But that's interesting, that nat gas, because, again, is that cap working? Again, that's way above my pay grade. I don't know. Based on UNG's action and nat gas today, maybe. But at a certain point, right, like, you can't keep the price down when the demand is rising. Like, that's just not how it works. Tesla, where is it at? 125. Market kind of pulling back. This is where, again, the first bottom, even intraday. Yeah, I was watching MP because I was like, damn, that's down 14.5%. Let's look at that. Not an alarm. Ooh, damn. And it kind of, I mean, it's like CF. Like, they're in these big boxes, or they're at the lows of the boxes, or they're playing games. Right? Money will rotate. Action will dictate. I mean, is this really tax law selling these names, or is this like the best way for the market makers to unlock some potential here in some of these names? That's where I'm like, AA, CF, Roblox. I mean, you pick the tech. I mean, MP even here. Like, this doesn't. Because you got some of the objects Friday action in it. It's all market dependent. Sometimes that's why we talk about, like, the rising tide lifts all boats. If you're betting on with certainty these names to rise, then you need the market to at least hold and not be in this down. You don't need to see the SPY down 2.5%. Like again, think about like down 1% less days and the market just kind of chops in certain rotation, fine. But when the market drops 10 points, say the SPY, for example, 2, 3, 4, 5%, like that's where I keep warning people, like nothing is safe. Like those kind of days can pull out everything. I mean, pull down, maybe the best way to describe it, pull down everything. But this is interesting. I mean, the VIX is peaking. SPY, again, let's get back to the 10-minute. Let's see if we see anything. Didn't we say if you could get over the highs? Well, there it goes, right? But look at the long wick. Look at those wicks. Yep. Choppiness. Choppy. It's kind of like, think about like the market makers, operators. Think of like Congress. It's like, all right, tell the pages and all of the assistants and front desk people it's time to buy stocks. And now they are literally the market makers in a sense. Operators. Doesn't look bearish. I gotta call it what it is right there. That doesn't look bearish to me. Coming off the lows. Here's your hammer capitulation. Okay volume. Again, I would like to see like bigger. But this is the thing right now, right? Like how many people... I mean, remember, I get trolled and I get the most texts on days like today. Sorry, wife's texting. Usually at extremes. Right? Those people are feeling as confident as ever. That's why I was asking, what is it? Aosk? I don't know how to pronounce the name. What is it? Okosik to like create some memes of people dancing on my grave like it's game over. Senate passed the bill on CNBC. Of course, that was going to happen. There you go. Game over. Like that indecisiveness is now passed. Does the market rally more? I mean, this is the thing, probably, right? PCE? Question mark, right? Oh, what's question? Left, right, here now. Yeah, that's a left-right combo. Someone's asking on Discord. That would be a left-right combo. Sam Freed on 250 mini bail too. God, that's crazy. I can't believe they're letting that goofball out. I mean, probably letting him out to Epstein him. Let's look at the 30 minutes. Someone pulled that up. Yeah, there's your classic left-right combo. Down, doji, right, engulfing. Now, again, you can be at the highs too. Like, let me see if there's a better one. Here you go. Left-right combo. But sometimes, again, you have to know where you're at on the daily chart. That's why the 30 minutes are hard. Yeah, he's going to sing. He's going to be singing he wish he was in jail, maybe? I don't know. That whole stuff, it's just so corrupt, man. It's so corrupt. It's so wrong. Just so wrong on all fronts. All the money being used for Congress, going to Ukraine. It was like a big freaking washing your money. Okay, so that's a good question, Jordan. The bigger the time frame, the more powerful it is, right? Like, I would love to see. Let me see. Let me just go back to my SPY 10-minute. I like to see it on like in the 2 hour, but I don't think you're gonna get it, right? I think you could only see it probably on the 30-minute because of when it happened. But it didn't matter ultimately in the sense, like if you were watching the 10-minute, what did we say, right? Like if you could get over this 376 area, you were going higher. Well, look what the backup on the 10 minute is like, right to it. And then any thoughts, questions? Now, again, if you have shorts and you're pressing them, that's a big gamble. Like, again, you start weighing, like let your brain start processing probabilities. If the PCE comes in and the market rises, you could get caught in a gap. If the PCE is good for you, what's the downside near term? I don't know. 374, like talked about, a lot of people talking about that gap fill. I mean, you got 374, 77. I mean, if I was short, I would be taking profits, layering out. I'd be looking for season. But this is because of me. Of like, again, I have journals and journals and journals of trading and mistakes and times and things that I've watched and when I, learned. So my words, and this is where it's kind of sad sometimes, and we'll wrap this up shortly. They don't mean as much to you as they do to me, because you haven't lived it. When I say you, person listening, kind of thing, right? It's no different than your parents saying, like, hey, I think you should go to school and get a degree in something technical, science, engineering, computer related, versus, oh, you want to get some sort of degree in religion or English or history. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. It's because it's like, yeah, like the potential of what you're learning and have learned as a parent is the best knowledge because of all the circumstances that you've encountered. It's no different. Like, if I am shorting this now, and that's why I don't be surprised if the squeeze is big. Like, think about it. Like, there's a ton of people who know what I know, and you're going, well, shiitake mushrooms, could that set off? Because it's done it before a dozen, feels like, times. Oh, Congress kicks the can down the road till the end of the year, literally right before Christmas, maybe even New Year's, to pass a budget. And then they pass the budget, and what happens? Well, the market was down all because of the budget, hypothetically speaking. Like, that's what the media is going to try to project, right? Oh, GDP is 3.2%. Well, the market's been down because of Congress not being able to pass a budget? Question mark? Does this make sense? How we're trying to, like, understand how the hell are these assholes going to try to put people in a bad position? PC is obviously, tomorrow is a huge date. Durable orders, personal income spending, PCE core, new home sales, University of Michigan, retail sentiment. And here we go. Do you see why I'm like wanting the trolls to come out when they do or talk junk? And if you're listening and you're one of them, that's why. All right, wife is calling. I got to take this. I think we're about to rally into the close. Be careful, be thoughtful. Tomorrow, what could happen, all right? There's no guarantee, but if you're short, you should have taken profits. If you're long and you're ever worried about it, minimize your loss. Be thoughtful. Got to run. Peace.